In the wealthy Poole suburb of Sandbanks, I spoke with Amanda and Julian to get their thoughts on King Charles III's coronation. Should we start with you, Amanda?
Yeah. Oh, there's.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
I thought it was a great occasion. I think Prince Charles will do a lot of good for the country. You know, he was ahead of his time years ago and interested in sort of farming and agriculture and planet issues. And at the time, people thought he was nuts. But actually, you know, sort of 30, 40 years later, actually, they realised that actually he was right and he was ahead of his time.
What about you, Julian? How did you feel about the coronation?
I'm a big royalist, so I think it was a marvellous occasion. I was very complimentary about the Queen when she was around. I think Charles will do a very good job for the country.
But that's sort of the issue, really, is that I think if you look at the polling, it's roughly split right down the middle between people who think he's going to be a good king and people who are more doubtful about that. The joys of filming outside. Exactly. Yeah. But how do you feel about such a divisive character now becoming king? Like I say,
I think it's a generation thing. Mm-hmm. I think for my age group and Amanda's age group and above, we've seen what good the royal family can do for the country. Whereas I think there's been a lot of perhaps controversial things that have happened with Charles, which have a different appeal to the younger generation, and I don't think they value what the monarchy can do around the Commonwealth or around the country. I think it's good to have their perspective on it. I get that they're rich and famous and they've got a lot of money, but they haven't come across that by chance. Absolutely.
So you both, you said you're a royalist. I assume you agree with that title?
Yeah, I do. Not maybe as much as Julian, perhaps. I think you've always been sort of a loyal supporter. Not that I'm not, but I've always been, when I was younger, certainly take it or leave it sort of thing, you know.
I think it's slightly different. I started out with a service background with my parents, and I grew up in the armed forces myself in the Royal Navy. And I think that's when you see some differences in what they can add and what I could have been fighting for, really.
Absolutely. So could you talk a little bit about that? What advantages do you think, what makes you a royalist essentially? What do you like about the royal family?
That's a tricky question, because I think that's ingrained in you from childhood as you grow up. Perhaps the respect that we show them. You know, I've seen different countries where there isn't a royal family, but I do think that they can do an awful lot for the country and around the world as well.
Perfect.
They're globally respected.
Thank you so much for your time.
It's all right, no worries.